The hustle and bustle of Agbogloshi. Beyond the hustle is what seems to be mothers begging to take care of their children. Clearly, this is not a pleasant sight. Not just one mother, but several of them baking in the scorching sun and exposing their children to the hot temperatures. The bowls are empty, meaning they have to stay here a while longer to gather enough pocket change. The mothers get emotional as I try to engage them. Asana shares her story.
My husband died when I was 3 months pregnant. So I cannot cater for my children alone. I have to beg to survive.
I was moved by her story, and it got me questioning what happened to our extended family system. Then this woman told me her husband was also dead, and that she could not also take care of her children. This other woman too shared the same story, that her husband was dead. It did not end here. All the women I engaged apparently were widows, or so they said. Did their husbands all sit in one vehicle, crashed and died at the same time? That aside, there was another similarity. They all had twins. Another thing is that all these children are Dagombas from the northern region. Was this sheer coincidence? Further checks revealed a deeper culture root. Culturally, these women believe gods instruct mothers of twins to beg to take care of their children. They also believe that if they fail to do so, their children will die. They hold on firmly to these traditions and never let go. But what they're also doing is exposing the children to serious danger. Health, education, and the general well-being of these children are being compromised. This is a short version of a full documentary. Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
And of course, the full version of the documentary by Jojo Kobna will be airing on this very channel, Joy News. And so always make sure you stay tuned and get the times when the documentary fully will be aired. And that will bring us to a subject of discussion, because really we need to discuss this very topic, and especially once this is a tradition, especially among some communities in our country. Why would some communities allow, well, mothers with twins, etc., who cannot fend for them to go and beg? And now we have a proliferation of this sort of activity, especially in urban communities like Accra, Kumasi, Tamale, Takoradi, etc. And what impact does it have on our social welfare system? And the social welfare system we have at all, do we have access to these mothers who beg with their children? And what does the system also offer these families who are destitute? We have in the studio Emmanuel Kingsford Anipa, Director of Social Welfare, Greater Accra, and we say thanks for joining us this morning, Emmanuel. More importantly, what's your own observation about the report or the snippet of the documentary that was just shown on TV?
Okay. Well, thank you. It's just unfortunate it's such a practice emanates from a part of our country. Personally, I got knowledge of this problem quite recently. That is a cultural belief and practice in some part of the country, precisely up north, that when a woman or women give birth to twins, either the children are killed or they have to go out and beg with the children for a number of years, precisely 5 years, before they are accepted or admitted into them as human beings. Perhaps that might have preempted the women to also do so in order to have their children alive or survived.
And following that, we know, well, you've as a department, you've just gotten to know about this per se.
Yeah.
But littered across urban areas in Ghana, children who are used by their parents or even by either of their parents to beg on the streets. How do you take cognizance of these, and what sort of measures do you put in place to make sure that they are roped into the social welfare system?
Well, actually, you might see them, or the children being the children of the adult beggars. But what actually happens is, it's just a fraction of such children who are the actual children of the beggars, the adult beggars. For all you know, these children are recruited by these beggars as a vocation. They use them to solicit for alms. At the end of the day, they pay them certain amount. So actually, it's not their own children. Even though they are children, they are not supposed to be engaged in the act. So it's not their biological children per se that they engage them. Also, I would say that they use these children in order to win the sympathy of society. Because if, as a beggar, you are with a child, everybody will have pity or sympathy on you, and therefore drop something for you.
And so that's a rationale for which they do what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Just to win public sympathy and also to earn something from the public.
As a department, have you been on the street trying to make sure, well, not necessarily this is cared, but also you tend to reach out to these people, first those who have families on the streets, and then those who are also using these children reportedly to make money?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge, I can recall that the latest attempt being just before the Can 208, there was an attempt by the department to get beggars off our streets. So all these people were picked up and sent to our rehabilitation center in Accra for screening and thereafter offering training to those who deserve to be trained. This was done with the training taking off. Along the line, before we realized all these people have left the training centers for the streets again. So it's like the society itself has to be blamed for, partly for some of these things, because we believe in giving from religious and cultural background, that when we give, we get more. So when these people are on the streets and we continue to drop CDs or coins into their racing, they'll ever remain there. Hitherto, there have been several attempts, right from Kwame Nkrumah era, or Nkrumah's days, there have been several attempts to equip these beggars or destitute with vocations. And from that time up to, say, should I say, the late 80s, when these educational reforms were introduced, the department was training them, was imparting vocational training to them. And after the training, they were engaged by our GES for our basic schools to teach crafts or crafts in those schools. But with the onset of the GES, where do they place? So automatically, some of them who felt they could not cope with the situation, found their way into the streets. Some too did it alongside, because at that time, the salary could hardly sustain almost all of us. And weighing the two, they found the begging as a better option than to be in employment. So at the moment, even to get them employed in formal sector after training is quite difficult. So, if not impossible. So most of them see that, the begging as
that's a more plausible thing to do. Now, we know that for many of the state departments, and especially for your department, where funding is always an issue annually, gathering data will be difficult. Have you been in a position to gather data and know these are the numbers that have that are on the streets, and these are the categories of child beggars or parents who use their children for begging?
Well, as a matter of fact, if I should tell you, I have a privy to any data by the department, I may be deceiving you because I had been in the regions for all along. I'm barely about 1 week old in the capital, so maybe from today.
Well, I do understand that.
Yes.
Not necessarily, it's not because only you are representing Accra, but as a department.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
You have been in another region before coming here.
Yeah.
So you should know whether as a department you have data for which you use to undertake whether it's your community activities or your sensitization and all.
Well, there had been some attempts to gather data on said people. I think the latest one was in collaboration with some NGO in Accra here. They asked to the exact picture or the number involved. I'm not in a position to finish with that now. Besides that, all over the country too, we've been gathering data on persons with disability, not necessarily those on the street begging, but persons with disability. But that was before computer age. That was before computer age. So I can't say for sure whether those data
are so relevant today.
Yes, now.
When it comes to the subject of those begging on the street and children who live on the street, their security is a matter of concern.
Yeah.
Then also their health.
Yeah.
As a department, once the pressure keeps coming, how do you make sure that perhaps there are registrations made for them for NHIS and their security is also assured out there?
Well, begging for say, before I tackle your question, the begging for say is generally outlawed in Ghana.
Begging
is
illegal.
Outlawed. It's illegal in Ghana.
It's illegal.
It's illegal in Ghana, according to NRC Decree 392.
Really?
Yes, 392. If you are found begging, particularly by a policeman, every policeman that chances upon anybody harboring the intent to beg or begging, wandering about with the intention to beg, the policeman has every right to arrest that person. But we don't know what is happening. Many a times, instead of directing such issues to the police, it is social welfare that is rather mentioned. Meanwhile, we don't have the capacity to effect an arrest. You see, so that aside, we have had so many interventions to avert such situation. Like I mentioned earlier on, we have established rehabilitation centers all over the country where persons with disabilities who are mostly found on the street begging are recruited and offered vocational training of their choices. Thereafter, that was those days. After the training, we ensure that they are resettled in their respective societies. But along the line, I don't know whether it was due to the economic recession or whatever reason, they will leave. They will rather go and sell the tools used in resettling them and then come back to the streets. So it's like the street is more lucrative than sweating to earn something.
From what you're saying, then it boils down to the subject of enforcement.
Yeah, it is about enforcement because...
Well, we have a regulation.
Yes.
And once the regulation is there or a law is there, it has to be enforced.
Well, yeah, those found in the act have to be apprehended and then probably prosecuted and sanctioned by the court.
As a department, if you've always known that we have existing laws and so these acts are illegal, what steps have you taken yourselves to compel stakeholder institutions to enforce?
Well, at my level, I don't think...
well, I do understand that, but you have been at this level, not necessarily the Greater Accra region, but at another region.
Yeah.
And so you know the daily activities that have been undertaken as far as administration of the department is concerned. So I'm asking you based on your practical experiences.
Yeah, I'm saying at my level in the sense that such issues are to be discussed or handled at the national directory level. But I remember whilst in the Western region, my bosses then, those I worked under those days, made some attempts by drawing the collaborators' attention to this plight in Western region. But, well, Nothing good came out of it. But one factor I would like us to know is that with issues of child protection and care, it falls under the domain of the district MMDAs, Metro, Municipal, and the district assemblies. According to the Children's Act, Section 16 of the Children's Act, it is for the assemblies to protect and care for these children. So if they are not doing it, or they are not assisting the department to go into some of these areas, I want to also be in a position to carry out some of this or effect some of this.
Well, as a department, we have foremost institutions mandated by law to either implement or make sure that they care for the welfare of even the vulnerable or the less privileged. And in this respect, we're talking about the children who beg on the streets. Wouldn't it be easier for you and your work if you will be in a position to lobby or compel stakeholder institutions or allied institutions of yours to be doing or undertaking their work well? So then your work also becomes less burdensome.
Yeah, I think I said this earlier on in passing. Set initiatives have to be taken by our directorate, national directorate. At our level, it may be difficult. Even some of our collaborators will also say, unless they have order from their from the top of their institutions. So it is a laudable or the right attempt or suggestion you are making. But I think our directorate have to initiate this for us to also get in. Yes.
Okay. Now, we have to wrap up our discussions very soon. Now, in going forward, how do you think that these people who take or hide the children and use them to go and beg on the street, and even those who find themselves there by the virtue of the fact that they are there with their parents, are catered for adequately? Either security, health, they are given access to some level of education as well.
Well, in the first place, I said that it is illegal. So it's up to the security agencies or the police who have the mandate to effect arrests to do that, to put some, to serve as deterrents to others who might be harboring the thought of coming to the street. Besides that, from the department point of view, I think we need to intensify our education or sensitization on the dangers involved in exposing such children or bringing the such children to the street, because by so doing, we are exposing them to the physical and moral dangers. Again, by so doing, we are depriving them of having formal education. You know, children are our future, what do you call it, leaders. They serve as the base of our human resource, future human resource. So if they are not being helped to have formal education, then the country's future will be bleak, in the sense that when we leave the scene, who will come to replace us? So parents of such children need to be arrested and then prosecuted to serve as deterrent to others. Also, I'll call on or appeal to the assemblies to be up and doing as far as the act, the Children's Section 16 of the Children's Act is concerned, because most of these children come from communities into the rural areas where there are assemblies. So if the assemblies were to put in such good social intervention measures, I don't think they will be lured into the capital to come or commercial areas to come and beg. Yeah.
Okay, your point is well made. And thanks for joining us this morning. And we've had in the studio Emmanuel Kingsford Anipa, Director of Social Welfare, Greater Accra Region. And thanks for again joining us. We hope to have you again sometime to have some lengthy discussion on the subject. We're taking a break. When we